My phone is actually covering the corner. Hello, we are live. Right. Well, we are now live on Facebook, Instagram, as well as YouTube and LinkedIn. So hello to everyone who are watching. Okay. Just going to wait for a moment for everything to register. People on Instagram, thank you for your patience. Okay. So this will be an episode on my podcast, The Womanly Way. For those of you who are watching me live, feel free to go and search The Womanly Way podcast on your favorite podcasting platform. Otherwise, if you're on Instagram, just go on and click on the link in my bio as well. Facebook, LinkedIn, and you can find me on my most recent post. Actually, I would love to know your feedback on what you thought about my latest podcast, which was an interview with my good friend Nikhil about his custody battle and I guess on the receiving end of a abusive relationship as a male. That's a pretty interesting episode, and yeah, I'd love to know what your thoughts are. Okay. Let's get it started. Hello. Welcome to this episode of the Womanly Way podcast. I am your host, Lala Angela Wang. Oh, God, I hope you're all well. I really have to say, this past week has felt really heavy. And I think it's the energy of the collectives, right? If you wake up in the morning and just felt everything's a bit dense, everything's a bit heavy, trust me, we are all feeling it, especially around the eclipse, and then with all the global events that are happening. That's definitely something to be mindful of, especially if you are a sensitive soul like me. It's likely you will be having or feeling the heaviness that are around us lately. So today's topic, I almost felt like to deliver this bears a sense of responsibility. And that's why it took me a while to really find it in myself to talk about this. But also for those of you who's been following me on Instagram, you would know that, past couple weeks, there's been some events happened at work. And that really got me reflecting on female, not just moms, but like all female, all women working in corporate, and how I can, I guess, share my experiences and success thus far. Not from a sense to say, hey, look, how amazing I am, but really as what I see now, having people that works under me and, having conversations with people that I mentor. These are really the things that we're going to cover today are really things that I have observed over the years. And quite often they are hard conversations to have, especially with women. If I am to bring out these three topics with men, they'll be like, yeah, of course, I knew that. You don't need to tell me this. But because of the way that we are wired, because of the way that We have been brought up because of a lot of our feminine approaches that we have been taught. It's harder for us female to do this. Right. You may be thinking right now, Lala, are you saying we're not cut out for it? No. I'm not even saying that corporate's not made for women. In fact, I truly, truly believe, and this is from even having conversation with my industry colleagues, that women working in corporate, especially when they're geared, when we are geared with the right resources and strategy, can do so much better than men. And it's just some minor tweaks in our psyche, in the way that we approach things, that will allow us to not only get onto the corporate ladder, right, but stay there and climb up just as fast as men, if not quicker. Like, some people look at me and go, "You're lucky to be at the position that you are at 40." But for me, it's like, well, no. If you look at a lot of the people around me, a lot of them are younger, right? At least where I work, there are so many more men that are in a similar position or better, and they're heaps younger than me. A lot of females, especially mums, come to me and go, "Well, you've done well." Yes, but there are also sacrifices that I have to make, right? There are decisions that I had to make that allowed me to build a career. And I think really the first thing that you need to ask yourself is climbing up the corporate ladder really something for you? Or are you just happy to have a job that you're happy with? Or is a job simply something for you to pay for the bill, to pay the bill? And I think that's the first thing we really need to establish here is, what's your position about having a job? And if your position is, a job just pays the bill, then perhaps the mindset is to get out of comparison-litis and just do what makes you happy, right? But if your desire is really to climb up the corporate ladder, then I think these 3 tips perhaps would help you, and I hope it will. So the first one that I see so many of us do is to wait for permission. And there's a difference between waiting for permission and asking for permission and just do it. Right? There's 3 levels. The ideal is to just do it. I love this quote that I have heard a few mentors mentioned over the years, is that leadership is rarely given, but always taken. Right? If you want to be in a leadership position, don't wait for permission, don't ask for permission. Do it, claim it as yours. And I see it from time and time again that as women will just sit around and expect that the promotion will happen, the pay rise will happen, you know, the position that we want will happen, and it hasn't, and then we feel disappointed. And it's not just the big stuff at work. Sometimes it's the little stuff. It's like reviews, performance reviews every year, right? Guys, if they really want a performance review and they really care about their career, they will say, "I've done my performance review, Mr. or Mrs. Manager. Can we book in a time to go through it?" Whereas a lot of times I'm seeing my female colleagues just sitting there waiting for the manager to approach them and book in a time and give them the review. And then when it doesn't happen, they're like, oh, it should have happened, but it didn't because it's my manager's fault. Well, actually, it's your career. So perhaps you should be the one that's taking responsibility, although, yes, technically your manager should have booked in a time with you. But there's no reason why you can't book in a time with them, right? It's like little things like that. Or recently, this is a true example. A new colleague started in our organization, and the handover process took a bit longer because she's been sick and working from home, and I'm helping her out easing into the process. She still asks me questions, and she would come to me for once a week and go, can we sit down and go through some of the questions I've got? Yes, sure. And one day she asked me, she's like, can I do this task? I'm like, yeah, of course you can, right? It's your project. You run it however you want to run it. She's like, oh, but I don't want to do it and then it's wrong and then you don't like it. Which is fair enough. I think a lot of times we just want to make sure things are perfect. But when we're talking about stepping into leadership, what you will find is if it was a male counterpart, and this is what I have literally witnessed, they would just do it, right? They would do it and then they'll present it to you and go, what do you think? And I really think that's the main difference between why we don't claim it and why men claim it, is this factor and this mindset about taking risks. Men takes far more risks than women. It's like that classic job application example, right? A man would apply for a job even though they only tick 3 out of 10 things. And a woman would only apply for a job when they tick all 10 boxes. Even then, some of them still thinks that they're not good enough for the job. And I guess what I'm trying to say to everyone who's listening, who has struggled and who wanted to or desire to or is planning to climb the corporate ladder and jump onto leadership position, is don't ask for permission. Just do it. Don't ask, don't wait. Just do it. Because that's the difference between someone who is a leader, who initiates, than who is a follower. And that, in a manager's eye, they will look at it and go, yes, this person is a leader and they've got leadership potential. And that's when you get yourself onto, the succession plans, the leadership trainings, and all that sort of things. And the other thing, kind of branching out from this, is about managing upwards as well. Same thing, same example with the performance review conversation, right? It's about you managing your manager so they can give you what you need in terms of trainings, resources. I'm guilty of this as well at times. Sometimes my manager's like, well, if you think that there's a component of my work that you would like to take over or experience, just let me know. But sometimes I'm still kind of like, oh, am I going to be stepping into someone's toes? Am I going to be like, seem as I'm too ambitious? All those things, even though I've got permission already, right? So guilty. But what I have learned is that sometimes our sensitivity is actually our greatest gift. The way that I do it, probably, I mean, it's not ideal maybe for some people, but for me, it really helped me. Is that the gift of observation? Like, observe the gaps, right? Observe the gaps that are within your organization. And if that fits the career path that you wish to take or the role that you wish to elevate to, take that gap. Like, do whatever you can do to fill that gap, fulfill that missing component, and deliver it. That has helped me really well because I don't then have to ask and say, can I do this? Right? I don't then have to go to my manager and go, oh, do you mind if I take this component of your work off you? There's a gap. I'm filling in the gap. No one else is doing it. So then I don't have to ask the person who's currently doing that role for permission. And that showed that you can initiate, you can problem solve, and that you can do it on your own. You can do it autonomously. And to any managers, any boss that's sort of like, that's a good boss, they will see it. All right. So the next one is, again, I think more, of the feminine energy and sometimes our sensitivity can become our weakness, I guess. Everything has got a spectrum. And I believe we can have sensitivity, we can have a personal approach at work. But sometimes, if it tips too much over to one end, it could be detrimenting to our career. And this is one of those that I hesitated in when I was preparing for this podcast, because I know that some people are going to take it personally. So tip number 2 is don't take things personally. And I'm guilty of it, especially earlier in my career. Being a people pleaser, I want everyone to be happy around me. And when someone is not happy, I'll do whatever it takes to make them happy. And it works against me in so many fronts because I end up, I guess, I wasn't happy at work because, it's a hard life trying to keep everyone happy. I second guess myself a lot. And also sometimes we could read people just wrong. Like, especially if you're working with a lot of men, which I do, they might be just having a shit day. Or they might be just like focusing on something, you know? And if you understand the male brain, like when they're focusing on something, distractions are just like the worst, because the moment they get distracted, they'll forget what they're doing and they can't go back to it. And sometimes we take that as this person doesn't want to talk to us, or get offended, or this person is rude. But the truth is, they're just focusing on something. I love that classic example. There's a recording of a live comedy show, and it talked about a man and their nothing box. Men has actually got a nothing box. You know how for women we haven't got compartmentizations of all the things. Some of us do, but quite often there's just a big box with a lot of mess, and we can always sort out the mess. Men has got many different boxes. There's the work box, there's a TV box, there's an entertainment box, there's a dad box, there's a relationship box, and there's this thing called the nothing box. When they're in the nothing box, it's just nothing. That's the box where they zone out, where they might be looking at the TV, but they're not actually watching the TV, where they're just allowing everything to like water filter, you allow everything to settle, and that's exactly what it is. In the nothing box, everything settles, and that's when they find their peace, when they rest, right? Because there's nothing. And as a woman, will be like, "What are you doing? Why are you doing this? Why are you talking to me? Why have you got a blank face? Why aren't you concentrating? Don't you love me? Are you thinking about your the partner that you're cheating with? Are you like all those stories we started to create?" But all it is just this guy's in a nothing box. It's the same thing when they're focusing, right? Nothing else matters when they're like in a single focus matter. And when you go and disrupt them, sometimes be like, "What? I'm busy. Sorry. I can't." Oh, they may not even say sorry. "I'm busy. Leave me alone. Don't distract me." All these things. And this woman will often go like, "Oh my God, he doesn't love me anymore. Oh my God, he hates me. Oh my God, this person is so rude." But all it is they're just focusing. And if we can see things from that perspective, or even if this person is rude, right? Not saying that we're tolerating it, but what I'm saying is I'm just not going to absorb it and take responsibility of other people's emotions. That's all. It's your emotions. It's got nothing to do with me. It's just what it is. And an approach that really helped me is really understanding that no one is irreplaceable. It doesn't matter how much work you do for your organization, how important you are, no one is irreplaceable. And so, therefore, really, there's no need to be so invested personally to get your mental and emotional attachment onto someone else's mental and emotional feelings and all the things and stress and all the things, right? Don't take on what's not yours, and don't take on the emotions and feelings of others, because that's quite frankly not part of the job. The job is to do the job. The job is not to The job description never tells you to take on other people's emotions or care for other people's emotions. I mean, you can care for them. You can, still be a person, be a colleague, be a friend. But even as friends, our responsibility is not to solve other people's emotional problems. We all have our own jobs to do, right? And quite frankly, if you want to climb up the corporate ladder, do your job and do it well. I love so I was recently in this retreat, and one of the things that the person, my mentor who's running the retreat, kept saying to us: stay in your own lane. Stay in your own lane, right? Or MYOB, mind your own business. And it's so often, especially as women, we've got this nurturing mentality. We just want to help. We just want to, when we see someone who's in pain, we just want to help. It's fine in a home situation. It's fine when you're a mum and you've got kids and you just want to help and support them. But our job, it doesn't matter what roles we are, is never to take on other people's emotions and fix it for them. Even with our kids, our job is not to fix their emotional challenges. The worst thing you could do when your child is having a tantrum is trying to fix it. The best thing you could do when your child is having a tantrum is let them have the tantrum. Let them experience the emotions. By taking those experiences away from your kids, you're actually doing more damage. You're robbing them of their experiences to experience a full spectrum of emotions. And then when they grow up, especially boys, we're talking about how these men can't deal with emotions. Well, no wonder, because you rob them of the rights to experience emotions by going, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay. I'll give you a lolly. Can you stop crying? Right? We became these emotional rescuers, not just to people we love, but to everyone around us. That's exhausting. And that used to be me whenever, especially those of us who's got fatherly wounds. If your dad wasn't very involved, and growing up, I've always want to please my dad because it's so hard to get approval from my dad, or even to get, well done from my dad, or to my thing was to hear my dad saying that he's proud of me. And I would do anything, whatever it takes for my dad to say that. And after, you know, growing up, being in a workforce, at the very beginning of my career, I noticed myself always rescuing men. Even in my relationship, it's always rescuing them. Right? I'll hang on to this relationship just so I can rescue them. We can fix this. And that took its toll. It took so much out of me, to the point that my tank was almost always empty. And for those of you who know, my philosophy now is that my job is to fill up my tank as full as possible and serve from overflow. Same thing when I'm at work. I no longer go and rescue people, which also means I no longer take things personally. I stay in my own lane, making sure that I do my job well. And if someone's having a tantrum, if someone's having a bad day, yes, we'll be there to hold them. And there's a difference between holding someone's emotion, allowing them to go, right, to fixing things. Because what you will end up doing is you will feel so drained emotionally more than anything. And then you don't have the energy to do what you're meant to do. Imagine if you reserve and preserve all the energy and focusing on building your own career, focusing on identifying the missing gap for your next role, focusing on managing upwards, focusing on finding places that you can step up and demonstrate that you've got leadership potential. How much more would you be able to get out of your job, your career, with all these energy that you now have? Right? You've always had them. You just didn't put them in the right. You didn't utilize them in the right places. So finally, thirdly, that I am starting to see the real benefit of this, because I spent the past 10 years really, probably not actually, I wouldn't say the past 10 years, probably more the past 6 years is when I really doubled down on making sure that besides doing my job, I am building a recognizable brand that is uniquely me, that is authentic, and that is genuine. I know, like, personal branding has been such a overused phrase, especially in the last little while. But it really is important when it's done right. It's not about what you wear. It's not, well, it is about what you wear, but it's not about looking like everyone else, right? But it's also not about creating this artificial persona of who you think other people want you to be. And I made a really conscious decision when I decided to really build a brand, especially after I've niched into aged care and retirement living. I really focused on what makes me happy, what gives me joy, or who am I really, and really made it my job. Talking about staying in your own land, right? I really made it my job to understand who I am. And I made it my business to understand myself more than anyone else. I became the expert of me. A lot of people often say to me, you don't wear like pants all the time, you don't wear business shirts, like you're far removed from a business person. And I'm like, yeah, that's okay. I work in the construction industry. Right? I don't like to wear shirts because that means I wear the shirts that I do wear, I don't have to iron them, and they're very durable, they're very comfortable. And that's what I like because I don't have the time to iron all of my shirts. And that's just reality. That's not me. Right? I've created a brand that really reflects what the womanly way is, even when I'm in the corporate environment. Yes, I still wear jeans when I have to get on site. Right, but that is okay. I am still feminine in my jeans, right? And I know the languages that I use, they are me. I swear. Right? I I am kind to people most of the times, but when I need to get shit done, there's another side of me that's really direct, that's time and task focused. And that is me. It took me a while, and this is going back to number two, but don't take it personally. I used to really care about how I'm not everyone's cup of tea. And I'll make sure that I am everyone's cup of tea. And then I end up not being a cup of tea. It became a glass of water, very bland. And so when I made the decision that I was going to build my personal brand and send it out in this very niched market, I was like, you know what? This directness, this bluntness, this time and task focused me, that's me. And I think that's part of the reason why I've been successful because of that. And to take it away, I just become the same as the person next to me, perhaps. So, really, building a personal brand is not about, to me anyway, it's not about creating a different persona to who you really are or creating a you that's, for your job and not who you are on the weekends. Creating a personal brand meaning really understand what is my what is my truest essence? What am I here to do? Who am I? What are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? And built on that. Because that's when you can be truly authentic, truly unique, and truly be in your power. And this is the truth. People are not dumb. We're not stupid. When you're not being authentic, when you're not, really who you are, let's say Monday to Friday, you're a different person to the Saturday and Sunday you. People sense it. People feel it. They know it. And that's why I don't believe in fake it till you make it. Like, just be you, and tweak it along the way. But when you fake it, everybody knows that you're faking it. So you might as well just be you. Don't fake it. It's so much easier and so much more comfortable. Yes, we may have to tweak it. We may have to learn our lessons every now and then. Like I said earlier this week on my story, what I have learned through the experience I had in the past months or last 3 months, especially in the last couple weeks, is that sometimes because my brain's going 100 miles an hour, when I'm trying to understand other people's perspective, I don't explain why I'm doing it. And when I start asking a whole lot of questions, people think I'm just trying to pick holes in what they're doing. And the reality is I'm just trying to understand their perspective, right? And so sometimes people think that I'm being annoying or being like critical or being arrogant, you name it. But upon reflection, what I've learned was yes, I can still ask those questions, but I just need to insert an opening statement before I do that by saying, hey, do you mind if I just ask a few more questions to help me understand where you're coming from? That's all. And then listen, right? Those are the two things that I have learned through reflection. Does it change who I am? No. It just adjusts my behavior slightly so then other people understand where I'm coming from, so there's no misunderstandings. And it's more around communication. My communication style is still the same. I've just adjusted slightly so other people can understand why I do what I do. It's a win-win, right? So in summary, the 3 tips that I do have, one is don't wait for permission and learn to manage upwards. 2 is don't take things personally. And 3 is find your personal brand and build it like a business. Essentially, build it like a business. And attached to that, actually, just to add on, I think everybody should learn business skills, and then really run your personal brand as a business because one, it helps you understand where the business owners are coming from. It will actually help you look at jobs differently. It will help you process and solve problems differently because instead of an employee, you now have this employer mindset. It really opens up new perspectives. So if you really want to develop your career and become a leader, go and take a business course or even starting your own business. I've learned so much just through starting my own business. I have a different appreciation and understanding, when my manager and the owner of the business makes a certain decision, I'm like, yeah, of course you would do it. I would do it too if I am you, right? And then also, well, this is now becoming, I guess, 5 piece of tips. The last one is really make sure that you find yourself mentors and coaches that could help you as well. I have been investing in mentors and coaches since the beginning of my career, and every single one of them, it doesn't matter, whether it's paid or free, I make sure I utilize every bit of it to my advantage, to the way that it will support me. And some of them cost a lot, some of them cost very little. Like I said, some of them are free. But the value that I got out of every single one of those exchanges are invaluable. Sometimes just having someone who's outside of your direct circle to look at the way that you do things and offer advice. Sometimes that's all we need, right? But that is just, it's so invaluable. And I really truly believe out of all of my investments in my career, having mentors is probably the best investment decision that I have made. So that's us for today. I hope you enjoy the content. If you do, please like, subscribe, and share my podcast. I would greatly appreciate it. Also, we've got a few really awesome and exciting initiatives that are coming in um later on this month. So just keep your eye on, keep listening to our episode for some really exciting giveaways and prizes and things that are coming up for the main 444 media launch next month. Love you all so, so, so much. Thank you for all of your support. And I look forward to our next episode. Bye.